Hi, I'm Chris Pfaff, the CEO of Chris Pfaff Tech Media LLC. And this session, which is on day one, of course, of the VR AR Global Summit Online Europe, is producing an XR, how to navigate challenges. We have a stellar cast with us today. Unfortunately, Voyelle Akur from Small Creative was unable to join us. We look forward to having her at another time, but we have three of the leading producers globally. And of course, at least two of them have European background, and at least one of them is in Europe right now. We have Michael Owen, who's the CEO of MediaCombo, with me here in New York. Hello, Michael.
Hello, good to be there.
And from sunny Lisbon, Portugal, we have Tupac Martir. He's the founder, of course, of Satore Studio. Hello, Tupac.
Hello.
And last but not least, we have somebody who's been all over Europe, including Madrid with Atlas 5. But now he's here in New York, in Brooklyn. In fact, this is Rafael Pavon. You know him mostly as creative director and producer with Atlas 5. Welcome, Rafa.
Thanks a lot. Nice to see you again.
So we're going to have a discussion, of course, but as always, we want to start with some show and tell. So Michael, and then Rafa and Tupac will each do some presentations, and then we'll dive into our discussion. So I will, hold on a second, be able to do a little housekeeping here to enable Michael to share. So Michael, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Hi, great. Let me grab this screen. And so I really wanted to talk about the three types of VR that I'm most focused in at the moment at MediaCombo. There's a huge range of different types of things that you can do with this technology, but we've pretty much working with three of them at the moment. And that's 360 video, which some people don't even really consider pure VR because it's a cylindrical or spherical capture of photographic area. It's a very powerful medium, but it's not truly, you know, a 3D virtual model of the world. Then you have that, the 3D immersive model video game that you're actually in and have agency to move around in. And then lastly, the third type, which is sort of really, I think, the forefront of a lot of VR experiences, is when you have social VR. And the first two types being sort of solo experiences, and the third now when it's a group space that people are inhabiting and collaborating in. So the first projects that I worked on were 360 video. My first job was to do 3 Google expeditions, which were about life in Russia. I did this with a crew based out of Moscow. And then we took the scenes from the 360 expeditions to do an actual 7-minute project about Lake Baikal, the sort of life around Lake Baikal, that sort of did the VR film circuit. And this is one of the scenes from that project. Imagine this wrapped around your head. And the characters actually would appear a lot closer to you in the headset.
What? What?
What I kind of liked about that was the guy on the bicycle in the background who was not an actor. He really was bicycling across the frozen lake. That is a example of, you know, photographic realism. It can be very powerful and immersive, but you do not have agency to move around in that space. Same as did with some projects we did with museums where we would document an exhibition. This is one called We Are Nature at the Carnegie Museum of Natural History. Again, you have these nodal points where you can move around a space and get a real sense of what a physical exhibit was like and call up information about each one of these items. But it's still a solo experience, and that is something that I'll come to sort of later. The next type of VR that we're, have worked with is when you really do have either a volumetrically captured or made up space that you can actually move around in. This is an example of the studio where Jackson Pollock and then later Lee Krasner painted some of the most iconic abstract expressionist paintings in the 20th century. And we were able to do that at the studio out on Long Island where they worked.
Jackson Pollock and Lee Krasner were abstract expressionist artists. They created their most famous works of art. In this building, only 21 feet square, today, trees have grown up behind the barn. Let's go back in time to see the studio as it looked when Pollock and Krasner were actually working here.
Having the canvas on the floor, I feel nearer, more a part of the painting. This way I can walk around it, work from all four sides, and be in the painting.
In the case of Blue Poles, Pollock re-entered it, as he put it, many times, spending some 6 months on it. Over time, layer after colorful layer was added, but Pollock couldn't seem to resolve it. Then he got the idea to use a piece of lumber, a 2x4, to apply 8 vertical strips of ultramarine blue paint, the so-called blue poles of the title, which helped structure and unify the composition. Portrait in green suggests its imagery abstractly and can be interpreted in various ways. Perhaps Krasner used looping arabesques and verdant coloring to communicate the intangible feelings that both she and Pollock considered to be the true subject matter of their art.
There's nothing that I can think of, including spirit, that I conceive away from nature.
So there, when you're in the experience, you can move around the space and do everything you want. You have more agency. But again, the thing is that this is something where you are alone in your virtual world. And sort of where we're going now, I think, is more social experiences. And this is something that we're working on now, especially because we think there's a real need in education to make distance learning more effective and powerful. And we think that connecting kids with museums is a really good way to do that. So we've been doing tests using to build a platform that would enable kids to actually check out exhibitions and have discussions about them. And this is a test we did with some kids in Bergen, Norway, where their school had virtual reality headsets. So we were in Brooklyn and they were in Bergen.
Take a minute to look at this quietly, and then we'll talk about what's going on in this picture. Who'd like to get us started?
I think they are doing some sort of school project.
Okay, and what do you see that makes you say that?
Like I think they made this thing out of plastic bottles. And like they're taking a photo of like some sort of like plastic in the ocean or something like that.
So looking at kind of from a different angle, this is something they're doing for school, and we're actually maybe even kind of seeing the
I think
product
they're like
they
are kind of they play dead.
So it's almost like an art installation. Did I get that right?
I don't know why I created this idea in my head, but like it was like school trip where they went on a plane. That's why they're wearing uniforms, and it crashed. They were stuck in a jungle because those trees on top of that hill give me hella jungle vibes. And they are the only survivors, and she needs to get food, and while they're sleeping, she's drowning them so she can eat them.
So that's a point of view of what you can do with interpreting a work of art. So that's the type of thing we're sort of thinking about and trying to create these sort of museum environments that people can go and collaborate in and have different points of view about what they're looking at. So that's it for me for now. I look forward to any comments people have about that.
Great, thanks, Michael. And now we're gonna hand it over to you, Rafa.
Hello, yeah. I'm gonna share, wait a second. Let me see. Okay. So great. Can you see it now?
Perfectly.
Yeah. So yeah, well, I've been a creative director and producer for a long time already in different studios, different countries, different teams, and I think that's really enriching because we're all building up the process, we're all understanding distribution, like we're all figuring out stuff and so getting knowledge from different places. So in the last years, I've been both with Atlas 5, a studio in France, and freelancing. So I'm going to share some of the projects that have been more insightful and enriching in both the process and the production in these years. The first one that I as an independent creator with a team in Spain was a project called Memoria, which was started as an education experience that they wanted to capture a cave in the north of Spain, a cave that is completely inaccessible, but it has a really strong history because it collapsed 16,000 years ago, and everything is intact, stayed intact for all this time inside. So a lot of people wanted to get inside the cave, and they were trying to put pressure on politicians, and so the people that are taking care of the cave, they thought that it would be a great idea to capture this somehow. So they wanted to initially to capture this with 360 cameras, but there were a lot of logistic problems in getting 360 cameras inside a cave with no light, and that would be really difficult to capture as it is. So I got in touch with, they got in touch with me, we started to talk, and I suggested to use a combination of processes. So to capture the cave in 360, in 3 dimensions, to use LiDAR scans, to capture photogrammetry of some of the paintings and of the objects. They loved the idea, we did it, and we convinced World Monuments Fund to fund the project. So I'm gonna show you a bit, and apart from the technical part, you're gonna see there is a strong narrative layer that I added in the end. Well, not in the end, in the beginning of the project, but that I felt it was really important to bring all those facts and all those objects and stories to create a thread, a narrative thread that people could follow. So I gave the cave a voice, which is the reason of the whole experience. And this was you're gonna see at the end, this open in the National Museum of the cave, which is in the north of Spain. And it was about to start touring right before the pandemic. So.
No one remembers our story anymore. For over 16,000 years, our memories have been preserved intact. In the cave you now call La Garma. Everything we once were has been there for centuries, until today. Now, let's follow the trail of our memories.
Yeah, so that was the trailer of the project, and and the experience and some of the shots from inside the cave, and the process of how we decided to represent the memories of the cave in a way that it was not that was clear that it was interpretations of how we feel about the things that happened there, the things that they were doing, even the way they were dressed, because the archaeologists didn't want to make a decision, because if it's not proven, it's not good for them. So we needed to stay in this kind of blurred dreams, ghost memories idea, which is where the name of the experience come from. This is the how we capture the objects with photogrammetry. So we created a full 3D version of the objects that are really small in the cave. You might not even see them, but they are really important, and they have carvings and things like that. And in the experience, you can actually make them really big and explore them around. And yeah, this is how we highlighted some of the paintings and the areas. And each painting is going to tell you a story. The cave is going to talk to you. These are the humans getting ready to hunt. And the final surprise, which is a cave lion, which is almost 3 meters long. And it's a real story of a cave lion who went to die in the cave when he was really old, and appears in the experience. And yeah, it's really, so these are some of the sketches of how we wanted to show it. Initially, the people from the museum wanted to have just a computer with a VR headset, but our experience told us that that was not the right way to show it. You needed to dress things, you needed to get onboarding, you needed people to be excited about what they're gonna see. So there was a full process of explaining why it has to be this way, and we needed the money to make it this way. So we made different like approaches in how you can. This was an idea for the next step of the tour, which never happened because of the pandemic. But the idea is that you would be with other people exploring the paintings and the cave. So yeah, the next project that is another project that I did during the pandemic, which is with a studio in San Francisco called Adventure Lab. Is how would you say, like a spin-off of Dr. Crumbs, which is an experience, a multiplayer experience game with live performers. So you play with 4 or 8 friends. You get there, you have different spaces. It's almost like escape room puzzle game. But some of the characters you meet during your game are live performers. So someone at their house with a headset is performing 5 different characters, sessions during the day, which during the pandemic, it was, it really gave things to do for some actors who couldn't work at the time. So I cannot get into a lot of details of how this happened, because this was a spin-off it was a secret prototype. But I can tell you a little bit of the idea around live performers in VR, because it's really interesting how that can open a new market.
Hi. I already sent the code to Justin, but we're all gonna be there. I'll see you there.
I'll see you there in a little bit. Yeah, I'm excited.
for an adventure.
Hi there. Hello. You must be the new mongrels for my minion army.
Should we go down? Or? Yeah, let's go down.
I need help.
Oh,
Thanks, guys. Woohoo.
I got you. Cool.
No, guys, don't forget. I need help.
I know you're tiny, but I believe in you, all right?
Come on, Heath, Steve.
If you...
Nice. I got you.
Oh.
No more Mr. Nice Guy.
I'm trying. It's not working.
Let's spread out.
I'm going.
No, my beautiful robot.
Finally.
He's coming through with the wind.
That was dope. Never done anything like that.
So weird to be back in real life.
I got my highlight reel already. Okay, I'm gonna share this.
You're literally in a different world.
It did make me feel like they were right there with me.
I would totally do this again.
So yeah, this project was basically an experiment, an experiment in distribution, in production, live, like real-time production, because there's a live performer who needed to interact with players, who needed to trigger things. So every day we were learning new things, and every day there was like a whole new like possibility in front of us. It's now open for bookings, and it's fully, so the actors can fully run it. They don't, the software allows it for them to run new sessions whenever they're ready. And so, but we're still exploring. I mean, they're still exploring the model, how it will work, what's the pricing, so it's one of these really, really exciting things that need to like find the right adjustments. So these are some of the like concept art, because I cannot show yet. Like, and it's one of the things we were exploring that I think I can talk about is how to involve players who are not just in a headset, which is would be the next step. How to get together and make them feel motivated, make them feel like they have things to do also, so no one gets bored and everyone understands their mission, which sounds very easy, but it's not. Some other concept art, and people can actually go now and book sessions if they want, and hopefully we will hear more from Adventure Lab soon on new things. And lastly, one of the first projects I ever made in VR, when no one had a clue how to do anything, not even the pipeline, the animation, not even the distribution, which is ironically the reason why the studio Future Lighthouse, where I was at the time, shut down, was mainly because we didn't know how to distribute content. So we spent a lot of money in making it, but no one thought that, we didn't think that we needed to bring it back, and there was no distribution at the time. And I'm gonna show just like it's an animation story told in Oculus. And at the time, the whole industry was basically trying to understand how production worked for animation, because there was a different approach, a different process to translate all the pre-render processes into real-time processes. And now it's obviously it's been like 4 years or 5 years. And it's definitely, we walked a lot since then. There's a lot of studios that did great job at doing that animation, like 3D with Gloomy Eyes, which I was lightly involved also, and Baobab. So there's a lot of studios who are doing that really well, but I'm still really proud of Melita the work we've done.
Yeah, it seems like that was a long time ago, given where things are now. But again, you've been part of a really great sort of community producers, particularly those in Paris, but not just exclusively. And thank you for showing us Dr. Crum and the School of Disobedient Pets. I'll have some more questions for you after that. But Tupac, now it's time to hear from you.
Sure. This one's going to be a little bit different. I don't think anybody's seen this presentation just yet. So there you go. You're getting a first. There we go. So for those who don't know me, my name is Tupac Martir. No, I am not a dead rapper. I am the founder and artist at Satore Studio. We do all sorts of weird things. So last year, obviously pandemic, everybody's hating the world. And I can see a lot of people trying to do really nice things by playing music. And a bunch of DJs and a bunch of people were just DJing and having a good time. Problem is, everybody was bloody doing it on their underpants. And there was no production inside of it. And this is before any of all the VR elements were coming to town. So we decided to pair up with a good friend of mine called Elliot Sumner, AKA Val. And I told Val, listen, I just want to do something during the solstice that allows me to play around with it. You know, get away from what happens all the time. You know, I want to feel like I'm in a club. We're show designers, so let's do something with show. So the first thing that I did is I decided that I was going to put her in a triangle and this pyramid, because I figured, you know, when you're at the club, when you're in the show, you see where the DJ is, and after that, you don't have to see the DJ. As long as you know that there's something in there that includes the DJ, that's it. You know, you make reference, whether you're in the club or you're in the festival, you make reference to the stage. And so I said, I'm going to use this so I don't have to be with her all the time, because one of the things that annoys the Jesus out of me is seeing all the streams and it's just the face of the DJ. And it's like, I don't want to see the DJ. I'm here listening to the music and get caught in the visuals. So the next thing that I did was, okay, let's start playing with what is my space. You know, so I decided to create this massive sphere in which everything was going to be in, and create layers within it, just like we would do in a normal show. Where would I put the lighting? How would the lighting work? And similars. Then from there, we started making little tiny experiments in which we were feeding music directly into the 3 different engines. And we created different sound engines for each one of them. So as the music was playing and depending on how she was playing, it will actually trigger elements into the system and be reactive. At the same time, we were creating a single type of style of a DMX protocol that could speak to all 3 engines. And why do I say 3 engines? Because we were working in Unreal, we were working in Touch Designer, and we were working in Notch at the same time. And I had feeds so that each one of them could actually feed to each other. I just realized I did one thing. So let me stop just for a second, because I just realized that you're not listening to what I'm saying in terms of my share screen. There you go. There we go. There we go. That's better. So yeah. So it was, for me, that was very, very important. So in the end, we started playing around, and like I said, we had the 3 engines, and the 3 engines were talking to each other. And I had 10 cameras in Unreal. I had 120 cameras in Notch, and I had something like 35 cameras in Touch Designer. And so I could pick any engine that I wanted at the moment, and I could pick any camera that I wanted at the moment and call them, because we were going to do this in real time. We weren't going to render anything. So from there, I started playing around with different objects and how I was going to evolve the show throughout the hour that we were going to play, and making it fun and making it different, so that as the music was progressing, different elements will come into position, and I could feed into each other and decide what I wanted to do. Muli, who was running the lighting desk and was actually running certain effects on top of it, was basically sending from his desk exactly the same signal to all 3 engines. So all 3 engines were behaving as we expected them to behave. It was just my decision aesthetically of which bits of the engine I wanted to use and which camera on each engine I wanted to use. And this is kind of the behind the scenes. So the show is just fully still in YouTube. So you want to see it, go for it. It's called Val versus Satore, Solstice. The next thing really quickly is, so we decided to take some cameras, and this is actually the data that we were getting out of those cameras, which right now you go, what in the world is that? Those cameras were coming actually from exoskeletons, and we were getting and dissecting the data that we were getting from there. Then that data came in and got cleaned up. There was a lot of dirt on it, as you can see it, but this is, it was about 8 different cameras taking this volumetric capture, which then we put 2 people at the same time to try to see what we could do with it. Then we started cleaning it up and trying to understand the PLYs that we can get out of it. We actually wrote an automated element for this PLYs to do some clever work. We then took all these PLYs and through quite impressive workflow between PLYs, Houdini, and Unreal, decided to create 3 pieces, which became our first 3 NFTs. One of them is sold, so I can't show you that. But the interesting thing that we did with it is that we only minted for 1 day. And after it got minted, it had a geolocation and it was tied to that geolocation. And unless you are within 15 meters to that geolocation, you cannot see the NFT. And the idea for it is that when you buy a painting, you hang the painting and you invite your friends over to see the painting. With an NFT, it's kind of like it's on your phone. So what's the point? You know, you can show it to anybody at any given point. But in this case, people have to come to your house so they can see the NFT. And this is one of them. So while we were working on this piece, we got asked by Verizon if we could do something with more volumetric capture. And I can't get into all the ins and outs of what we did. But once again, we decided to go multi-engine and using a lot of the same workflow that we had for this and create this other piece, which unless you were in Cannes Lions, this has never been seen.
Dash it up through. Hard running to Alungi. Continue to work it around the corner here.
Thank you very much.
Well, I would say thank you, Tupac. And now, for those of you watching, you'll understand why Tupac went last, because it's pretty damn hard to follow him. So kudos. That's some remarkable work, and remarkable work from all three of you. But I'm going to keep it here with you, Tupac, as we dive into our conversation with the time we have left. And by the way, for all of you watching, I'm sure you've been sending all of your questions, which we're looking at. We will, of course, have a Q&A session immediately after this session, so we can get into more of your questions. So Tupac, you know, I want to look at the challenges, just briefly, if you could tell us of this multi-engine work, because, you know, the DJ set just makes perfect sense. I mean, you know, we've seen live DJ sets where people are mixing things in real time, but to do this in a VR environment or something in XR, I mean, it seems like you're really creating a new business line here. And you know, I'm just wondering how long it took you to come up with that set.
So we did, from beginning to end, it took us a month and a half.
Really? Okay. And please put again, in due course, we'll do this in the Q&A into the chat line, the YouTube link there. But that's some fantastic work, and I loved.
I mean, what people, I guess what people need to understand. Rafa will know this as well as me, but it's you know, it's a constant R&D. You know, it's you know, we learned a lot through the process, but we had been running around doing multi-engine for a while, trying to see how things are coming together, how we can share certain things. So it's not like we came up with it and we did it in a month and a half. There's about 8-9 months of R&D that go behind it, and then, you know, my mental health going, oh, let's do it this way, and everyone in the studio is going, oh crap, and then, you know, go into it. But it's yeah, it's really interesting how many of these workflows, as we're moving them around, then allows us to open new things to go, oh, but now we can do this, and now we can do that, and we can do that. And, you know, so right now I'm working on a piece that is just absolutely bonkers, that goes beyond these kinds of things, but all of it comes from all these learnings that we've had.
But and also, and then I'll quickly move to Rafa in a second. The NFT, which, by the way, is just a stunning, absolutely stunning work. I mean, you know, we think of NFTs, at least I think most of us do, as really a glorified kind of blockchain-based collectible and something that's more static. But the idea of creating an NFT, of course, that has this multi-dimensionality is, I think, what we would really want to see, right?
Yeah, and that was, you know, that was a lot of what we're trying to do, was how do we break the concept of what an NFT is. You know, the NFT is actually tied, like I said, to a geolocation. The geolocation is a sculpture, because the sculpture is the physical presence of what's on the cloud.
Yeah, well, and of course, contextually, you would think any artist, whether it was 500 years ago or 5 days ago, would say, well, of course, the contextualization of the location of the sculpture, unless somebody moves it, is everything about the art. So kudos to you for that. And we'll get into the more discussion in the Q&A. Rafa, you know, I want to talk about the work that you did, of course, with the Memoria, because I think that's a real challenge to get into. Of course, you were part of that was cut off by the pandemic in terms of the vision. But, you know, it seems pretty clear that what you can do to bring people into this kind of environment and in a multi-layer way is, I think, really a future for just about any kind of vision, right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, one of the things I wanted to prove with that is that I've seen the right decisions made in different projects, but not all together yet, in terms of museums. But because we are dealing not only with production, but with R&D, with distribution, with technology, with staff sometimes. So there's a lot of things, a lot of ramifications of what we do. So I used that project because it was a small project that almost went unsupervised. I would say that, like, in the sense that people were trusting us, and a lot of people were not really understanding, which gave us an advantage, because I was allowed to make the decision on me and all the people that made the decisions and everyone who made the decision came from a immersive experience. So they understood It was not coming from outside experiences, and I think we proved in a small way. There was a proof of concept of everything that I saw around that when that was right for an experience, and it was really successful in the small scale that project was, and in the installation. So yeah, there's a lot. It worked really well, and that's one of the things that I felt more encouraged to. Is like this is a small milestone, and we can make bigger things using something.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. Because that's really what I felt, and there's a lot of empathy there as well. Even a saber-toothed tiger going off to die, as opposed to dragging somebody it's killed into the cave, which of course people have discovered. But I want to go from that animal to the other series of animals, and that's Dr. Crumb and the School of Disobedient Pets. That's a great demo in terms of what you can do. Never mind the fact that it's a pandemic, but we've obviously the other session I'm doing at this event on virtual theater, we've seen some really tremendous acting talent that's gotten involved in virtual theater, and not just because of their voices, but their understanding of the metaverse, for lack of a better word. But in that sense, I mean, I think you're really building something that has that kind of franchise capability. Because there's real interactivity and not just in sort of one static push here play. So talk about that a little bit.
I mean, definitely that was for me, that was the starting point. And I was one of the ones that tried Dr. Crumb as an audience member, and I was mind blown. Yeah. Mind blown in ways that I couldn't even articulate, because technically, in general, like, the things were there before. It's just a matter of how they put everything together, and they gave a meaning to. So yeah, what I mean, if you can get together with friends there, why can one of those characters can be someone who's not your friend, but it's trained and it's rehearsed and could get into a character? And it's one question that is one of these questions that you cannot imagine why no one answered before. When you have it in front of you. It was, and then I got in touch with the studio. We started to talk, and that's why we started helping and shaping the future, which is, can this be used as a platform? Maybe platform is not the right. What is the right word for that? Because it could be a whole new discipline. It could
right, and I think that's the thing that's really exciting, is that it is that journey and that adventure. Because I think so much of this work, particularly, and I say the work of the viewer, is based on certain assumptions, and I think it really challenges a lot of assumptions about immersivity in general, which I think was really cool, and we want to hear more about that. Michael, this has been a fascinating period, of course, for cultural institutions, many of which were either open on limited hours or shut down. I mean, what, from a standpoint of learning, it seems, that the work you've done in the past few years has really laid a foundation for perhaps a new form of even hybrid experiences with museums. Where do you think the road leads from here going into 2022?
Well, I sadly think that museums, for the most part, are not going to embrace VR as something that you would ever do on premises. I mean, they want people to come in and to actually enjoy the real experience. And also, they don't have the in-house capability to essentially manage what's a location-based entertainment kind of scenario, where you would need staff and professionals to onboard, supervise, maintain, keep the equipment clean, particularly because of COVID, and then offload the experience. I mean, that's not really what museums are set up to do. And it'll happen at a small scale, but I don't see it as a serious VR production being done. But I do think VR can be used to extend what's in museums to remote audiences. So you don't, and so what we're really needing to wait on is better headsets at cheaper prices, and a more adoption. And then I'm sure it's going to really take off.
Right, and that's exactly, you know, what my question was getting to. So I think that you know, I see some positive signs based on what's been around and playing off of an audience that is looking for more in every way. We're running up against time, believe it or not, which is why it's so important that we have this great Q&A session coming up right on the other side of this. So I really thank everyone who's watching this, and please get ready for your questions, many of which, of course, we've already seen here. But really, again, I'm sorry we did not have Voyelle Coeur here from Small Creative. She was great when we had her several months ago, but she's got some deadlines she was up against, so unfortunately. But really fabulous to see you all again. Michael Owen from MediaCombo, Rafael Pavon from Atlas 5 and other places, of course, and last but not least, Tupac Martir from Satore Studio. I'm Chris Pfaff from Chris Pfaff Tech Media LLC. This is Producing in XR, Navigating Challenges. Thank you once again to Anne-Marie Enns and the entire Verara team. This is a really fabulous summit, and we thank you all for being here. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.